Growing up black in a white family in a small and very racist town is just one piece of the systemic puzzle. When you grow up surrounded by small town politics, it just adds another layer of trauma to things. This is where isolation comes in. In building our society, small towns didn't just happen to be mostly white. Many were designed that way through redlining, sundown policies, and exclusionary housing laws that forced black families out of neighborhoods and kept them out. So when you grow up black in towns with that kind of energy, especially in a white family, you're not just isolated socially. You're dealing with the ripple effects of decisions that were built on racism long before you were even born. Isolation doesn't always mean being alone. Sometimes it's everybody in town looking at your parents as if they received the wrong Amazon order. Oh no, what happened? They didn't have any of the regular ones? Like the white ones? Sometimes isolation is being surrounded by people who simply refuse to see what's happening to you. People definitely saw that I was unhappy and in a lot of pain growing up. They just ignored it. Or they accused me of lying because I simply wasn't worth the effort or the energy it would have taken to help me. My adoptive parents were considered important people. That was too much trouble. So then the radical justifications came in. My very legitimate complaints turned into ingratitude. I wasn't allowed to be unhappy. It did not matter how legitimate my pain was. I was adopted. It didn't matter that my adoptive family was cruel to me. I was adopted. So I just needed to be grateful. They opened their home to you. You're lucky they wanted you. You're ruining it for yourself. I learned pretty early on that silence was safer than honesty. Lies became safer than the truth. Friends didn't truly understand, either because we were all too young to grasp the gravity of certain situations, or because they weren't real friends, so they didn't really want to or try to understand what I was going through. Most adults in my life growing up defended my parents. People made a lot of different excuses for my adopted family's toxic behavior. Members of the community would quite honestly go out of their way to deflect from things. Being black and adopted in a small town full of white people who defend toxic behavior within your household is a crazy situation, whether anybody wants to believe it or not. That's not a childhood, that's a PR campaign. I would mention a bad thing that happened at home and somebody from the town would be like, "Your folks are good Christian people." My bad. It says it right here. Neglect and abuse do expire when they come with unseasoned casserole. That's my mistake. Authority protects itself. Grown-ass men put their hands on me a lot growing up. It was disgusting. But of course, excuses were made. So as a child, I stopped telling people about those things. It became painfully obvious that nobody was willing to do anything about grown-ass white men who f***ize little black girls. After enough failed attempts at being heard, I just stopped trying. When adults in my life ignored the scary and painful things that happened to me, I understood. My life didn't truly mean anything to anybody. Something else I learned from being adopted: if the adults in your life are important people and have a lot going on, the traumatic occurrences that you deal with simply do not matter. Let's talk assimilation. I know that some of y'all won't believe me, but code switching did not start on social media. During segregation, black folks had to very carefully control their speech, tone, and body language in white spaces, simply to avoid punishment or violence. That survival strategy never disappeared, though. It just evolved. Today, the vibe is that black professionals still feel the need to change how they speak or behave in majority white spaces, just to be seen as competent. For me, growing up, acceptance became an absolutely exhausting performance. I had to learn how to exist in ways that made everybody else around me comfortable with me and my skin color. I tried not to be too loud. I tried not to look too angry. I tried not to be black. I tried not to be so different from everybody else. And even though I failed miserably at trying to mask myself, most of the time, pieces of me were slowly watered down over the years. My natural hair became a joke. My voice somehow became an issue. My emotions were always perceived as aggressive. Me trying to connect with my own culture in any way, it was just embarrassing. Belonging came with conditions. I had to be what people expected. I had to be quieter. I should have been grateful just to appear to have friends. Another important piece of information that I learned from being adopted: if I wasn't willing to be white people's invented perception of what a Black person was, I didn't deserve to have friends or family. People used to try to communicate with me by speaking in movie quotes, specifically quotes that came from the Black characters. When I didn't respond the way that I was expected to respond to that, suddenly I was a with no sense of humor. Research on racial trauma shows that children who are raised in hostile racial environments often develop hypervigilance. Growing up in such an aggressively suppressive community was a lot for me. It would have been a lot for a grown-ass adult. So as a child, my nervous system was trash. I was dealing with a lot, and I was carrying it all by myself. So that forced me into survival mode. It probably made me seem mature for my age sometimes, but it was actually just stress adaptation. Let's not forget, I'm speaking on matters of systemic racism right now. This is a system, and after a while, a system doesn't have to correct you anymore. I started correcting myself. I thought, well, maybe if I just act the way that people want, the way that people expect me to, somebody will love me. Maybe eventually somebody will care enough to help me understand and heal my struggles. I swallowed my emotions before I even showed them. That's not easy when you're on the spectrum. I didn't even know I was on the spectrum. I didn't know that what I was doing at the time was masking. I laughed at racist jokes that were extremely hurtful, because if I can tolerate that, maybe they'll love me eventually. I downplayed racism so people didn't get uncomfortable, because maybe if I can tolerate that, somebody will eventually care, right? I apologized for reacting to harm. People would get so pissed off at me just for getting sad about things that were said. So I pretended not to be. I'd hold all of that shit in. I would bury that pain so deep. And I'd go home, I'd go sit in my room, and I'd cry and cry and cry and cry. I had no choice but to become manageable. Compliance became instinct because I was a kid. I made myself believe that wearing a mask would bring me love. That's what some kids do when they lack the guidance that they truly need. The system didn't have to control me. I was a lonely, traumatized child. I was doing it for them. Research shows that transracial adoptees often struggle with identity conflict and racial isolation, especially when they are raised in communities that don't reflect them. It's true, adoption can provide many things if the intentions are positive ones, though it doesn't automatically protect a child from racial trauma. Even if I was truly loved as an adoptee, it wouldn't have erased the systemic impact that adoption had on my life. Even after I started taking time away from the town, the system stayed with me. All of the trauma that I went through as an adoptee sits with me to this day. The irony actually makes me pretty sick to my stomach. People truly believe that adoption is a promise of love and support. To the adoptees existing in this world who did have those things, I'm happy for you and I celebrate with you. Unfortunately, what I received from my adoption was a lot different. I received the exciting acumen of bracing for rejection before it happens. I wholeheartedly always expect love to simply disappear from my life, which hurts so much when you often carry a deep and genuine love and care for other people. I always prepare for safety to be temporary. I always expect safety to be taken away. And I am not embellishing when I tell you that that is a terrifying way to exist in this world. I question my memories. I second guess my reactions to literally everything. I often wonder if things really were my fault when they very clearly weren't. Love forever feels conditional to me. Love will always be conditional for me. Belonging will always feel like I have to work overtime to earn it, especially when it comes to other Black people. The hardest part of all of this, the hardest part of my existence as me, it's not just that I distrust the world. I distrust myself and my ability to survive alone in this world. I am a broken product. I am faulty through and through, from my mental disabilities right down to the color of my skin and the scars that I bear from the ghosts of my pain. Nobody, not even people with extra love to give, will ever look at me and think, challenge accepted. Adoption saw to that. Maybe one day I won't be broken. I can only hope that there will be a time in my future where I believe that I am worthy of love, where I believe that my worth will bring me love, safety, and light. I long for an existence where I can exist without the weight of being a burden. My memories are real. My pain was real. My reactions made sense. And one day, I will trust myself again. Adoption did not define my worth. The system harmed me, but it did not erase me. I am still here. I am still worthy. And I am still me.